And today we're just going to jump right into the 49ers versus Cowboys recap. The 49ers just won on Sunday Night Football. Everything's all cured, right, Mike? Everything was just fine and dandy in the game. Niners took care of business.
I
Is what
mean,
I wish I could tell you. It's what I wish I could tell everybody. That game was crazy. Mike, what are your initial, thoughts and takeaways from the game?
well, my first thought, especially in the second half of this game, was Isaac Guerrero looks like a guy who has earned more snaps. Um, and then for a moment there, it kind of seemed like, oh, Dak Prescott is dacking. And then I stopped watching the game after the Brock Purdy rushing touchdown,
Yeah.
or at least I think he got the rushing. I know he was like down by the elbow, and then whatever happened, and I was like, well, this game's over. It was what 30 to like 14 or something,
Mhm.
or maybe even I think so. But anyways, so I was like, well, this game's over. There's like what 10 minutes left in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, it was like a
You guys had to,
three-score game. It
yeah,
felt like with like 8 or 6 minutes left. Like
yeah,
I want to say like 6 minutes left.
yeah. And then I have CD Lamb in one of my dynasty leagues, so I'm in my room and I get these notifications. CD Lamb touchdown. I was like, oh, cool. And then not even 5 minutes later, I get another one. I was like, and then I go back out and I watch the rest of the game, and I'm like, okay, they came back. I don't know what happened, but yeah,
Did
they
you
made it
turn it back
close.
on after that, or you just were observing the
Yeah,
fantasy updates?
I no, I went back out and checked out the last 3 minutes of the game when the Niners didn't convert third down, punted the ball, and then they stopped the Cowboys. Uh, did they get an interception? Was that Lenore? Or
Yeah,
was that
Lenore got
earlier?
an interception. But it's funny. It's so hard to think about like the timing in which things occurred. I'm gonna look at when Lenore got his interception. Let me see if I can find it just quickly on Twitter, and then I can get like a timestamp. But Lenore interception. Let's see here. It was in the third quarter. Dak
Okay.
Prescott was rolling to the left, and he was trying to force the ball to CD Lamb,
Yes.
and Lenore was all
Yes.
over it.
He just looked weird even rolling to the left. It was like, this doesn't look right. And then he threw a pick.
Yeah, so I mean, let me tell the story of this game, from my perspective. So like in the first half, it looks like man, the Niners cannot do like they can't get anything right on offense,
Yeah.
and it's not even so much that they were like really giving it up to the Cowboys, to letting the Cowboys offense just dictate the game. No, it was like both teams were struggling early on, and then the 49ers picked it up in the second half. Like Brock Purdy in the first half was a much different player than Brock Purdy in the second half. Brock Purdy in the first half was like, man, this is not a $60 million quarterback. And honestly, all right, to be quite honest, throughout the game, he was not a $60 million quarterback, but that's not because Brock Purdy isn't worth an extension. It's just who really in the NFL is worth $60 million? You know what I mean? Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, and Joe Burrow, right? Like maybe those three, and that's it. But really, if you want to be technical, probably just Patrick Mahomes. But we'll talk about Mahomes in a little bit because we got the Raiders Chiefs recap coming up. But all right, so Brock Purdy turned things around quickly in the second half. Like it was, there was a lot of scrutiny, a lot of tweets. Maybe he went in the locker room and checked Twitter and was like, all right, I'm not worth an extension. I bet. Went right back out there and you know, he just played a lot better. He was running a lot, and the offense was finally scoring points. Like the Niners were able to put up 30 points in this game, and honestly could have put up 36 or 37 if Garendo, doesn't make the smart play at the end to just slide, and the Niners bled out the clock like at the goal line. But yeah, there were glimpses in this game of a team that's truly dominant, you know? In the second half, there were glimpses of, "Oh, man, this is 49er football that we know under Kyle Shanahan," and this is 49er football that we've gotten used to over the past couple years. And then there were glimpses late in the game, like you said, about the whole CeeDee Lamb getting 2 touchdowns in, like, in the span of 5 minutes. There were glimpses of the team that just a couple weeks ago blew it against Arizona, the team that earlier in the season blew it against the Rams, you know? And all right, the 49ers get credit for getting this victory, but man, did they get lucky because the Cowboys are not a good team. They're just not. They don't have a running game. Their quarterback is very turnover prone. And I mean, they have a magnificent receiver in CeeDee Lamb. He proved it tonight, right? CeeDee Lamb had, a couple touchdowns. They beat a hold on. I activated Siri, that she thought that I was talking to her when I said CeeDee. But, you know, tonight they beat a team, no run game. The defense the Cowboys defense isn't particularly good. But man, it is beyond me why Kyle Shanahan just refuses to learn how to manage the clock late in the game. Dude, all they have to do is pick up a couple first downs, right? And just eat they have to eat away at the clock. What he does is call 3 straight passes. Dude, what are you doing? Use the clock to your advantage. You don't all right. If the Cowboys are loading the box, you don't even have to run it straight up the gut. You can do end arounds. We've seen that in the Shanahan offense, in the past. You don't you can, scheme up easy completions for Purdy on simple screen passes. Yeah, they might get sniffed out, but dude, late in the game, you shouldn't be trying to go for the home run. Secure the victory. You're up by multiple scores. Manage the clock. Run the ball. Run the ball, Kyle. Like, please. All right. It's like an ego thing with him, dude. He just refuses to learn. Like, how do you feel about it, Mike? Because I'm an emotional fan, and I mean, this is bitten them in the butt in a couple Super Bowls. It's bitten them in the butt in at least you, well, I'm not going to say NFC Championship games because there was one against the Eagles where they lost their quarterbacks. There was the one against the Rams where they just couldn't get it going offensively. But
Yep.
this has bitten them in the butt in Super Bowls, and this season it has happened twice where they just do not finish a football game. And a lot or a big factor in that is the play calling. What do you think, Mike?
I think I mostly agree with you. Like, it's become a tendency with him as far as not leaning on the run as much as he should, especially considering how good his run game usually is. It just doesn't quite make sense. Um, I think for this game, I mean, for one thing, they got the win, so of course, he'll end up getting the pass. But you can also kind of give him a pass right now because he doesn't have McCaffrey. That's not to say that he's going to have McCaffrey forever. And you know, he had McCaffrey in the Super Bowl this past year, but you know, I think once he gets McCaffrey back, maybe that's when it'll start becoming a more dominant offense, you know? Um, and I would expect more run game. And then even, you know, when you see McCaffrey on the field, it's like, yeah, just expect it to go to him. And if it doesn't, be thankful. Um, but you also, of course, have Debo and the man of the hour today, Mr. Tight End, National Tight End Day, George Kittle, who I had to go up against in fantasy football.
Which, let's just be honest, that was so predictable. I didn't even once I knew that it was National Tight End Day this weekend, or I guess today, I should have known that it was going to be a big Kittle game, and really across the NFL. All right, don't know what it is. Every tight end almost went off today. Most tight ends had several touchdowns today, and I just don't understand. Like, all right, why don't defenses, knowing that it's National Tight End Day, adjust? Why is it? And then same thing with offensive play callers. Why is it all of a sudden these tight ends are going to have a big week on this weekend in particular? Why isn't it
Mhm.
a regular thing? I just don't get it.
Yeah, it's always the National Tight Ends Day is when all of them just decide to go off.
Yep. But
I'm yeah. I would just say once McCaffrey comes back, you can be more multiple, and I think you can get a guy like Garendo on the field and get him carries, and you know the box might be loaded for McCaffrey, but when maybe you put McCaffrey out in the slot and you have Garendo in the backfield, and then you hand it off to Garendo, and the defense doesn't expect that, just I don't know. I think McCaffrey is that guy that can unlock the offense even without Brandon Ayuk to the point where you would hope Shanahan would start running the ball more when he needs to.
mhm. Speaking of Brandon Ayuk, Ricky Pearsall, I think today stepped up into that Brandon Ayuk role because Pearsall he had 4 catches for 38 yards, and I mean, not necessarily to the same efficiency that Brandon Ayuk was at, but Ricky Pearsall is still a young player, and let's not forget he just got shot like 2 months ago. But also, Pearsall got involved in the run game. I want to say it was a jet sweep, if I remember the play correctly, but it was a carry for 39 yards. So you know the 49ers have found a way to work him into the offense, and we'll see how that continues going forward once Juwan Jennings is back. But yeah, no, I thought Pearsall today looked pretty good. They sort of went away from him late in the game, but like really opened up the game, like almost featuring him. And then when it got near the goal line, it was actually, I was gonna say when it got near the goal line, it was a little bit more the Kittle show, but Kittle was the one who was getting them to the goal line, and then Kittle obviously had one of the touchdowns, right? So, uh, yeah, Kittle ended out finishing the game with 6 receptions, 128 yards, and a touchdown. And besides that, let me take some comments because I see Fonzie in here, and Fonzie is a loyal member of the channel, or I guess subscriber, because we don't do channel memberships yet. We will eventually get there. Fonzie, I think, is talking about the Raider game in terms of holding out hope for the Raiders. We'll talk about the Raiders soon. He saw a weakness, referring to Shanahan probably calling pass plays, and today he ran more than usual. Yeah, I'm not talking about rushing in general in the offense. I'm talking about, all right, the game just needs to be clocked. The game is winding down. You call 3 straight passing plays. It's the same mistake that he made in the Super Bowl, where he called like 9 straight passing plays in the third quarter. He just abandoned the run. Like, obviously, you're not going
I
to clock the game in the
I think
third
what
quarter
you're
of the
talking
Super Bowl.
about I think what you're talking about is in like the late fourth quarter, like second to
Yep.
last drive for the Niners. That drive that ended on a third and or I think a 3 and out. And the Cowboys got an opportunity to come back, but then they couldn't because the defense stopped them. But that could have easily turned into something really bad because the Cowboys basically had a 2-minute drill with the ball in Dak's hands. When you
And
could have
luckily, the
kept running
Cowboys
Garendo.
just suck, dude. Luckily, the Cowboys just suck.
Yeah. But to Fonzie's point, the Niners in the second half started running the ball, and that's why I started by saying, Garendo looks like a guy that deserves more snaps because he was getting chunk after chunk, starting in the third quarter.
Yeah, but all right. That's the thing. The Niners offense was so much better in the second half. The rush was working for them. Garendo was going off. You know, why
He's
not
got
why
that
not
burst.
stick to that? And then same thing on the defensive side of the ball. The Niners were the Niners were like giving the. There was a certain point in the game where the Cowboys didn't even have like a first down in like, was it 22 minutes? They didn't have a first down in 22 minutes. Hell of a
Mm.
defensive adjustment by Nick Sorensen. And then all of a sudden they're calling really soft coverage with like, like 10 minutes left in the game. And I don't know, dude. To me, stick to what works until like at least a little bit later. You know what I mean? Like the Niners were getting decent pressure on Prescott. They were you know, I think they were locking up CeeDee Lamb pretty well up until late in the game. And then there was that one play where Renardo Green got absolutely obliterated by Jair Brown. Did you see that play, Mike? It was one of CeeDee Lamb's touchdowns. So
No.
so Lamb got wide open because all right, Renardo Green, he's matched up man on man. He's manned up with CeeDee Lamb, and then Jair Brown is going for the guy in motion, and Jair Brown just completely like blindsides Renardo Green, and CeeDee Lamb's just wide open for the touchdown.
Mm.
So, it was one of those things where the Niners didn't know what hit them, but it was just happening so quick, just like the Rams game, just like the Cardinals game, and it was like, oh my God, this is going to happen again, and this season's over.
Oh yeah.
I was about to drop a hard F-bomb right there, dude. Yeah. About to drink Mountain Dew, bruh. No. Fonzie says Garendo going off was not in the script. Yeah, no. Garendo, I think to Mike's point, has earned more snaps. We'll see how the addition of McCaffrey will affect the whole Garendo Jordan Mason split. Is it going to be like McCaffrey from last year where they're going to run him into the ground? I don't know. We'll have to see, because I don't want to ruin McCaffrey's career, for holding out hope of the production for one season that so far the 49ers are 4-4 going into the bye week,
Mm-hmm.
McCaffrey, any running back can ball in this system. Yeah, that's what I was going to say to you, Mike, is you said the Niners not having McCaffrey is obviously, an issue for them, not committing to the run, but 31 other teams do not have Christian McCaffrey. And then we see the Kansas City Chiefs pick up Kareem Hunt off the street. Nobody wanted Kareem Hunt. And then that's their offense. It's just Kareem Hunt. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's play calling. That's Andy Reid versus Shanahan, I guess. But one thing, kind of not to counter that, but more just to say something, but like Isaac Garendo, like when the Niners drafted him and looking at his measurables and 4.33 speed, I was like, you can't help but think like, wow, he's the perfect fit for this system. Because he was like athletically like 9.99 out of 10 on the athletic score system.
Yeah.
Like he's a pure athlete. Went to Louisville, so it's not like he was playing the craziest competition or anything, but he's a guy that projects into being, if he were to get the right opportunities, he could be a 3-down back, essentially. And
Garendo?
with his Garendo, yeah. Like if he were to get the opportunities, that's not saying he projects in the sense that I think for sure he's going to do that. It's more of physically the type of body frame that he has and speed and just overall athletic ability, he can do that. Whereas a lot of running backs can't, right? Like Zamir White, he can't do it. But he's the perfect fit for the Shanahan system. Point being, he's very much like a Raheem Mostert, I would say better than Matt Breida type, or at least projects better. So,
yeah, no, he reminds me a lot of Mostert because he just finds the opening and like runs so smoothly right through it.
Yep.
Whereas Jordan Mason, it's like sort of resembles Marshawn Lynch, where he just runs very very violently
Mm,
and, will punch you in the mouth.
yeah.
He is like a, he's a fighter, right? Uh, Fonzie says it's National Tight End Day. If they adjust to the tight end, they will most likely lose on the run. Yeah, I mean, here's the thing though: is when a tight end is typically blocking, it sort of leads you to the run. I mean, unless they're running weak side, but yeah, I don't know. I would hope that this holiday that George Kittle started would encourage offensive coordinators to incorporate the tight end more because it is like it almost feels like a dying breed, at least in fantasy football. But dude, tight ends are super underrated, is what I'll say. Mason is better than Garendo. When healthy, I agree. When healthy, I definitely agree. But
I would say
it's
right
just,
now, yes, but in a year from now, that might change.
yeah, like I think Mason is definitely more experienced in this offense. I like I just like Mason's ability to fight inside the trenches, whereas Garendo is still, I guess to your point, in a year or so, Garendo might end up being the better player, but Garendo probably is more gifted athletically. But yeah, Jordan Mason, I think when healthy, right now is the better running back. I agree.
Yeah. I would
And
even
I think Shanahan
say,
agrees.
yeah, I would even say if McCaffrey weren't on this team, which because he's not healthy, technically he's not able to play for this team. But like if you took McCaffrey out of the equation, I don't think Jordan Mason plus Garendo is a bad 1-2 punch. In
Not
fact,
at
that's
all.
probably better than most teams in the NFL, in my
That's kind of
opinion.
like that's kind of like I'm trying to think of like it would be like a poor man's version of David Montgomery um and DeAndre no, not
Jameer,
DeAndre Swift.
Jameer
Jameer
Gibbs.
Gibbs. Sorry. I should know that. I have Jameer Gibbs on my fantasy team. I don't know,
Yeah, you
but
should.
Swift and Gibbs, I think it's because they were traded for one another technically. Or like,
Mm,
the Lions traded away DeAndre Swift and then immediately drafted Jameer Gibbs to sort of like take that role in that offense. That's
yeah.
that's why I like, think about it that way
I would
or
s-
got
I would
confused right there.
say yeah, I would say Garendo and Mason in that order reminds me of I can't say poor man's or rich man's. I'm just gonna say it reminds me of Darren McFadden and Michael Bush for the Raiders back in like 2010.
Mhm. Okay. That's interesting. Brandon Halam, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. So I'll just go Brandon. Every wide receiver CJ Stroud wants drafted gets shot. Tank Dell, Ricky Pearsall, coincidence? Um, I'll just I'll say this: if you're a wide receiver and CJ Stroud likes you, you might want to get a bodyguard. You know
Yeah.
what do you think,
Let's
Mike?
hope let's hope that Stroud isn't asking the Texans to trade up for Travis Hunter or any receiver, really. Hopefully he just stops. He's just like, "You know what? We're good at receiver now."
Yeah, you're a receiver coming in this draft, and it's like, oh my God, CJ Stroud thinks so highly of me, and it's well, better go to Big Five and get a bulletproof vest or
Yeah.
Bass Pro Shop. I don't know where they sell them, to be honest. But Fonzie says, yeah, bro, but he also called fourth downs and run plays when they expected to pass. Um, yeah, I mean, I'm more specifically talking about the series where they just went three straight passes, and on third down, there was no running back in the backfield. Like it's 3rd and 10 at that point, but the first two passes were already a mistake. Clock the game. It's the same mistake over and over again. Just clock the game. It's not that hard. Um, let's see. Because Garendo played well tonight. Garendo ended out finishing 14 carries for 85 yards and a touchdown. Let's see. Who else? Oh, Fonzie again. He was going off in spurts. It's the system. Yeah, we've seen players like, Raheem Mostert, like Matt Breida, and now Garendo reminds me, I'll say it again, of those players where they're just really fast and are able to take advantage of the system. Being realistic, you don't get a 4.33 speed making cuts and shifting. That's the reason why I personally don't put too much on the 40. What do you think, Mike, about that evaluation of
Yeah, I mean,
running backs?
at the end of the day, if you're gonna be able to, at least most of the time, if you're gonna be running up the gut or something like that, you need to be able to make the right reads. Like that's important. That's why I liked a guy like Ray Davis, because I felt he was good at that. Whereas Garendo maybe wasn't quite as good as at that, but he has the breakaway speed that a guy like Ray Davis or somebody I'm more used to, Josh Jacobs, doesn't. Like Jacobs was pretty notorious for not having many 50-plus yard rushes. He had the big one against the Seahawks a couple years ago, but other than that, like not very many because he doesn't have that breakaway speed, whereas Garendo does, which is big. It's not the biggest thing. Like, yeah, you need to make the cuts, you need to be able to read the holes right and all that, but if you want the big play from your running back, he has to have the breakaway speed.
Mm-hmm. And then Fonzie's not talking about what you just said now, but at some point he agreed. And then Joe Kickass, I'm pretty sure this is my brother, so shout out to Joey. I had trouble finding the podcast. I had to search like 5 times. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
Mike and I were talking about it. We might rename the podcast, not from Silver and Gold. We'll keep Silver and Gold for sure, but like Silver and Gold Football Podcast or Silver and Gold Podcast, just to make it easier. Because as of right now, you search for the channel and you get like jewelry, and I think we're worth more than what you can get in silver and gold into dollars, right, Mike?
Yeah.
This podcast is literally worth gold.
Yeah, I'd
worth
say
more than gold.
The experiences I've had trying to search for this podcast, you have to put silver, gold Raiders, silver, gold Niners
49ers.
to get it to pop up.
That's how I search it every time. Silver and gold 49ers, and then I'll send it.
Yeah.
Yeah, gold and silver price videos. Yeah, exactly. So we'll work on being more searchable, and yeah. Fonzie says, damn, that's a good running back room compared to
either the Lions or I would assume the Lions running back room.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Fonzie's telling Joey, next time write it down. Actually, just subscribe. How about you just subscribe and then you look under the channels that you're subscribed to? So, yeah. Brandon says Garendo almost took off a couple long ones today.
Yep.
Yeah, Garendo played great. He averaged 6.1 yards per carry. That's great.
Mm-hmm. And if he wasn't such a aware team player, he would have had a touchdown in this game.
Mm-hmm. I meant to say Garendo was going off in spurts. Yeah, no, I understood what you meant. Let's see. I think I got it when I searched Mike and Josh Silver and Gold.
Interesting.
We are not going to name the channel Mike and Josh Silver and Gold, but we will work on the searchability. And when asked to subscribe to our channel, Joey said that's how it'll work. It's one click of a button and support your brother. So, hey, what if I have the wrong Joey and it's a different Joe Kickass?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. I literally get 10% of the alerts when you guys come on. It's weird. There should be like a little bell icon like over on the bottom right. I don't know like how you're accessing the podcast, but click the bell and then set it to all. And I think you have to do it on each specific device. Like it's kind of stupid, but I mean, shout out to YouTube for letting us have this podcast on their platform, But yeah, I think if you set it to all alerts, it should be, just on every single device. Drake and Josh Silver and Gold. That's the new channel name.
Yep. That'll get views.
I never thought running should be so simple. Yeah. Let's move on, Mike. Let's talk about the 49ers bye week. What do you think the 49ers can do in order to improve, over their upcoming week off?
Get McCaffrey to ice up.
Yeah, that was the first thing I was thinking is, just getting McCaffrey back after the bye, I think is going to pay dividends for the offense.
Yeah. I would
if
say
he can be healthy.
Yeah, I would say actually Debo needs to ice up because apparently he got like a rib injury or something. So I mean the bye week is pretty good timing for him. I don't know.
I'm glad you brought up Debo. Debo. Finish your point and then I'll say why.
I would just say getting everybody healthy before what looks like a somewhat tough spurt in the schedule. Granted, the Buccaneers game, I don't know if that's the first one out of the bye, but they look a lot weaker at receiver now. After just one game last week against the Ravens on Monday night.
Yeah.
Which, was really unfortunate for them. But getting the offense somewhat back with McCaffrey, I think, is just the biggest thing. Like that first half against the Cowboys game, like the offense was just not there. You guys had 6 points going into half? I think it was 10-6.
Yeah,
like, that's just not.
It was like 10-6. Let me double check. Let me look at the box score.
Yeah, the point is 10-6. Like that's just not what you would expect from the Shanahan offense. Run by Brock Purdy. So I think getting McCaffrey in there will really help, and then hopefully maybe the other thing to do is to get Ricky Pearsall like really up to speed, because I would say I haven't seen any stats. I could be dead wrong on this, so don't quote me, but I don't know how good he's been doing on separation. He's a rookie, so you're not really expecting him to be like a separation god or anything right now, but I was watching a few plays where they would like show the replay from like the quarterback's view, the all 22 sort of look. And I would watch Pearsall and it was like, yeah, he's not really getting open, So I'd say him getting more up to speed would help and getting Juwan Jennings back. That was a random injury going into this game. But like in theory, with Ayuk out, and then you still have Debo, Juwan Jennings, Kittle, you get back McCaffrey. It's like that one guy that's missing is Ayuk. So if Pearsall's the guy taking his spot, that's not to say that he's now the number one receiver on the team. Obviously, he's not, but he's filling a role that very much was the number one guy. So, getting him up to speed would be huge.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And then, you brought up Pearsall maybe not getting a lot of separation, but you don't have the numbers to back it up. I thought Pearsall looked pretty good early in the game, but like I said, they kind of went away from him. And then he had that one rush, that it was almost like a Debo Samuel kind of play,
Yeah.
So, I mean, I like the creativity there. So, getting Pearsall maybe a little bit more involved and getting Jennings back is going to be huge because that is their go-to guy on third down. That is the guy that keeps drives going, and I feel like Jennings is also a big target too, so that will hopefully help the red zone efficiency. But yeah, besides that, McCaffrey definitely getting healthier will help. And I said that I was glad that you mentioned Debo Samuel last week. We were uncertain on how severe his illness was. We just know that he was standing there on the sideline, and it was just a weird situation. Why he like started out the game and then was like standing there for most of the game in his shoulder pads and not taking it easy if he really was sick. So we were like kind of left questioning whether or not like, what does it mean and everything. But I just want to apologize to Debo Samuel because I mean, I honestly believed that he was sick you can go back and look. I said, I honestly think that he was just sick, but I did question whether or not maybe it like had trade implications because of that Diana Rossini, report. So I just want to apologize to Debo Samuel. If you ever see this, yeah, I did not know that you had pneumonia, and I didn't know it was that bad. And I'm glad that you're okay and you were okay enough to play. And I hope you ice up those ribs. You got a week off. You don't have to play football for another 2 weeks. Get your body right and lock in. And yeah, the 49ers have to go on this run. They have to be better going forward because the strength of the schedule is going to get tougher.
Yep.
The Niners, I think, merely survived tonight against the Cowboys.
Oh, yeah.
And it's weird because the Niners, all right, first half of the game, sluggish. Second half of the game, or most of the second half, they dominated.
Yep.
And then they survived.
Yep.
So, yeah. Besides that, Shanahan maybe needs to get a little bit more creative on offense. I think he was a little bit more creative today, but managing the game down the stretch, I don't know how many times I have to say this, but it's like, it's a broken record, and it's just tough to see him lose the same way every time. Shanahan doesn't lose every game. Obviously they're 500 right now, but like the two of the games that they've lost, it's the same way.